Hi and welcome to my video. In today's video, I'm gonna be showing you all of the pans that I have in my current makeup collection. Let's start off with powders. I have these two powders over here. One of them is the Rimmel Stay Matte powder in the shade 3 Peach Glow. This is my winter shade for a powder, and as you can see, it has a nice big pan on it. Powders I feel like is the easiest thing to hit pan on because you use them every day anyways, so they just organically get pan on them either way. And the second powder here is the Rimmel Kind and Free powder in the shade 10 Fair. As you can tell, I love Rimmel powders. This is my summer shade, and it has a fairly big pan in it as well. The winter one is a little bit bigger. I am not surprised because where I'm from, the winter is like way longer than the summer every year, so no surprise there. Next up, let's go to cheek products. I have one bronzer in my collection that has pan on it. It is the Essence Sun Club Matte Bronzing Powder. This is for the lighter skin, obviously. And here is the teeny tiny pan that I have on it. It is actually multiple baby pans. I just hit it, I would say maybe like a week ago, and I've just been trying to expand it and make more baby pans. This is as well the bronzer that I love using during the summer, so I was determined to hit pan on it by the end of this summer. And I guess I managed to do it because I did hit pan on it in September, and in September I kind of still have my tan. In October I start to lose it. So great thing that I hit pan on it now, and I can put it away into my drawers and go for a lighter toned bronzer. But this is an absolutely fabulous product. There is so much product in here. It is 15 grams or 0.52 ounces. So it's gonna last you like literally forever. But the packaging is the only thing that I have a little bit of a complaint about because, you know, it's broken. I think I've had this for maybe a year or year and a half, and the packaging is already broken. Like, it's not even that old of a product. So that's the only downside of this product, but otherwise I absolutely love it. For highlighters, I have two pens in my collection. One of them comes from this Ofra Signature Face Palette. In here there are 5 highlighters, and one of them has a pan on it. Over here, the first one, the lightest shade, this is the shade that suits me most of the year, and the pink one as well, but the other 3 are only wearable during summertime. So I'm not surprised that that is the one that I hit pan on, but it is very like tuck down deep in there because I use like a teeny tiny brush on the tip of my nose and on the bridge of my nose and my inner corners. So that is basically how I managed to hit pan on it. That one I hit pan on, I think, last summer or last fall maybe. Anyway, it has pan on it. My favorite shade actually from this whole palette is the last one over here. This is just such a nice like goldy pinky shade. This is very nice as well, but sometimes it's a bit too pink for me. So I really do prefer this one over all the rest, but this is just the most wearable shade. That's why this one has pan. The second highlight actually looks quite similar. It is maybe a bit darker. I can swatch those two next to each other actually, but it comes from my Natasha Denona Clam Face palette. Here it is. I'm trying not to like show anything personal in my house, but the highlight that I was talking about is here. It's called Star Glow, and it has a teeny tiny pan in it. This one was basically formed with the same tiny brush that I use on the tip of my nose as well. Here are the two highlighters swatched next to each other. The top one is the Natasha one and the bottom one is the Ofra one. If I tilt my hand, you can see that the Natasha one is a bit darker than my skin tone is currently. So the time for me to wear the Natasha Denona highlighter this year is almost over because I am getting lighter and lighter, and there is really nothing I can do about it. I have been trying to hit pan on it for the whole year. I've been using this highlighter basically the whole year. And I finally hit pan on it for my Deck of Panning project pan, probably like a few weeks ago as well. So some of the pans are like very new, some of them are like years old. Moving on to blush, I only have one blush pan in my whole collection, and it comes from the same Natasha Denona Clam Face palette. As you already saw, there is a cream blush in here, the one that I already showed you just a few minutes ago, and it has quite a decent sized pan in it. That one I am very proud of as well, because I have been using this one the whole year as well, and like the whole year of use, and this is how tiny of a pan I have in it. That is absolutely crazy. I guess I am very light-handed with my blush, and I didn't realize it before I started to actually like work on it full time. I've been basically ignoring all of the other blushes that I have in my collection, which is quite sad, but I really want to use it up because it is the only cream blush that I have in my collection and the only cream cheek product in general, and I am just scared that it is going bad. I did have a ColourPop cream bronzer, one of those like Super Shock bronzers in my collection, and that went bad on me like super quickly. I had only had it for like a year maximum, maybe even like half a year, and it already went bad on me. So I am so scared that this one is gonna go bad on me as well, and I really don't want it to go bad because it is expensive and it is Natasha Denona, and I do absolutely adore this blush. So I'm trying to use it up and it is not going that well. Okay, moving away from face and cheek products, I am gonna dive into eyeshadows. Since I already have this palette in my hand, and maybe you saw that this has an eyeshadow pan in it as well. The first shade over here, called Inner Corner, has pan in it. I absolutely adore this shade. It is such a nice topper shade. I can tap it over any look and it will just elevate it so much. Like, I feel like I have to save it for like special occasions when I go like to some fancy places. That's where I can allow myself to use that shade. Next, let's move into my ABH Norvina palette. Here it is, and it might have a bit of a spoiler in it for my Tech of Panning project pan, but it does have quite a few pans in it, and one of them is super new. Like, I literally hit pan on it like yesterday or the day before yesterday. So here is the palette. 3 pans are completely visible straight away. First, up here we have the shade Dreamer, has a nice pan in it. We have the shade Rose Gold and Dazzling as well. Dazzling is such a pretty shade. If I could, I would wear it like every day. But the shade that I do wear every day is here, the shade called Base, and there is like a glimmer of a pan in there. That counts. That counts as pan. I'm gonna, of course, keep using it and keep extending the pan because I do use this shade every day to set my eye primer. This palette officially has 4 pans in it now. That's not the palette with most pans in my collection. So I will show you the palette that has the most pans last, because that is my panded palette for the year, and there are definitely some spoilers in there. I feel like this one is my like favorite palette that I have in my collection, and I'm so proud to have 4 pans in here and actually like show that I use it and that I love it, and I want it to look more used than abused. There is some shades that I don't think I've even touched, like these 2 and this one up here as well. I don't think I've even like swatched these 3 shades. But otherwise, I adore this palette. Moving on to a little ColourPop quad that I have. Here it is. This is called the Violet It Be ColourPop quad. In here, I have a pan. Quite a big pan for an eyeshadow, for me at least, in the shade called Love Letter. I am trying to use the shade up within the year. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but I'm gonna try my best. I dropped this palette actually and it broke, and these 2 shades like crumbled. This shade completely just fell onto my floor, and I wasn't gonna like scoop it back up and press it back in here. I just threw it away. And this one, half of it smashed onto the floor, but half of it stayed in this palette. So I just put it back in here, repressed it, and now I want to use it up because there is not that much of it left. As you can see, it is quite low, and these 2 shades I don't really care about. So once I use this one up, I can just declutter this whole palette. But yeah, it is an absolutely beautiful shade. I will miss it once I use it up. I don't know if that's gonna happen this year or next year, but I will miss it either way. Next up, let's dive into another spoiler, but this time for the Graveyard Project pan. Here is my Morphe 18W Natural Wonder palette, and in here there is 1 pan that I hit for the Graveyard Project pan. It is in the shade called Pure Obsidian. Here it is. The pan is tiny, But in my defense, I use this only as a liner. This is my first ever pan in a matte black that I have like ever in my whole lifetime hit. So I am super proud. This is a very recent pan as well. I hit it like 3 weeks ago, I would say. And I have been trying to expand it a little bit because it was like really tiny at first, because you know I use like the tiniest brush that I have to make the liner. But then I've been trying to expand it, and by trying to expand it I keep covering it back up. So it's just like I'm trying to make it bigger, but I keep making it smaller. And the last palette that I am gonna talk about today is my ColourPop Scoring Coconuts eyeshadow palette. This is the palette that I am trying to pan this year to, well, I say to completion, but actually I'm just basically trying to hit pan on every shade and get as much use out of this palette as possible. In here we have 5 pans. 2 of them are in Franken shades, but you know, they still count as pans. So the first one up here is called Shredded, but it is actually a Franken between these 2 shades, and it has a decent sized pan in it. The whole product is very low in this pan, so that was very easy to hit pan on it. Nonetheless, it's pan and it counts. Next shade is Palm Reader. This is an inner corner shade. That's why it has like a very pinpointed pan in it for the inner corners. Over here we have a shade called Lovely Bunch, a nice warm toned crease shade. In the middle here we have a shade that is called Cocoa Crush, but it is actually a Franken between these 2 shades. It is very low in the pan as well, but it's pan nonetheless, so it counts. And the last shade down here is called The Cocoa. This one I use mainly in my outer corners, and it has the tiniest pan in this whole palette. So yeah, 5 pans here. How many pans did I show you today then? 18 pans I showed you today. That is actually quite good for me because most of them are very recent. I would say at least 5 of them are like this month, and that is mostly because I knew I wanted to film this video in September and I wanted to have as many pans as possible for this video. So I've just been like hyper focused on these shades that I know that were quite close to pan. But yeah, that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing as well. Thank you so much, and bye bye.